It was the early 2000s. I had just joined my father's company and was learning work from him. I was living in my older apartment, which was quite far from my workplace. So, my father asked me to move into the apartment complex he owned near the office. He said that it could be temporary and I could find a good place later. I hired movers and packers and asked my father's assistants to help me with the moving. He was trustworthy and we had a great relationship. We already considered each other best friends. The day finally arrived when I had to shift. I had done basic packing and was waiting in my hall when I got a call from my sister. I had to immediately fly to the UK for some urgent business to take care of. I called my friend and asked him if he could take care of my moving. It was on a Sunday, and he already had plans with me, so he complied. He said that I don't have to worry about anything, so I quickly packed a light suitcase, left him the key, and headed to the airport. When I returned, all my stuff was already shifted to the new place, so I got my key from my assistant and drove to the apartment. As I parked my car in the parking lot, I saw a woman fighting with a boy. The boy must be around 16 to 17 years old, and the woman was in her late 30s or so. I didn't get out of my car because I didn't want any attention on me. Also, this apartment complex was owned by my family. If anything shady happened, I should know. The boy looked like he was trying to explain something. The woman wasn't having any of it. It looked like she was scolding him. I thought she must be his mother. And then bam! Echoing inside the hollow walls, she slapped the kid and said something. There was blood in his mouth. I was about to open my car door when he took out his wallet and gave her some money. Then she asked him to follow her, and then they got on the lift together. I wanted to confront them, to ask them what was happening, but I didn't know what kind of a relationship they had. He could be a son who stole money, or the lady could be a money-grubbing stepmother. I didn't know anything. All I knew was that she slapped him, and she definitely shouldn't have done that. I made a note of collecting more evidence in my mind. However, I quickly forgot things. I couldn't catch a break during work. I had a lot on my plate as I was learning and also supervising a team under me. Some days I had to do overtime, and I always left work late. On Sundays, I would go back to my parents' house to blow off some steam and take a much-needed rest. After 2 months or so, things finally calmed down, and I could find myself coming home earlier than I used to. Everything was much more chill, so I had ample time to take care of things. This was on a Sunday. It was the first Sunday when I didn't go back to my parents. I was cleaning my apartment when I heard some commotion from another apartment. Apparently, someone was having a fight. I half opened my door to see the same woman I saw in the parking lot once. This time, she was fighting with another woman who must have been her age. Her head was bleeding, and she was wiping it with a handkerchief. She was frail and shivering. I understood that the nasty neighbor lady must have done something. The neighbor lady was panicking and then asked the woman to follow her to the lift. She was so anxious that she didn't even close her door completely and walked to the lift. They went in together, and I was scared for the other woman's safety. I stood outside the neighbor's apartment and peeked inside. It reeked. My head felt so heavy. I didn't know if I was doing right or wrong. I knocked on the door and asked, "Anyone there?" thrice. There was no answer, so I walked in. The hall was smoky and some reggae music played on the radio. I felt like I shouldn't have snooped, so I decided to walk out when I saw the neighbor lady by the door. She was eyeing me suspiciously. She looked like she had managed to calm down a bit. She fanned herself with the newspaper and kept staring at me. For a long second, nobody said anything. Silence enveloped us. Then she cleared her voice and asked, "You arrived so soon. Mike sent you here?" Before I could reply, she walked inside and stood in front of her TV. "He said you lived nearby and you were the only one available, but what is with this cleaning? Are you blind, moron? Can't you even clean this properly? It's a blood stain. What do you think will happen if someone walks in and sees it?" she yelled. I was confused for a second. Then I understood what had happened. I had tied handkerchiefs around my mouth and head. I was carrying a mop and there was a pail of dirty water outside the door. I was in my house cleaning, and when I heard the noise, I went outside without fixing my attire. She probably thought I was a cleaner. Oh, you know how business is. I make sure to keep it all clean because sometimes nosy neighbors come without any invitation and make small talk. I can't be too antisocial. If I do that, People might think I'm hiding something. Plus, I have a lot of guests. If they see blood, they might think that I'm dangerous, which I'm not. I just have a temper. She lit a cigarette and inspected the room. She sighed heavily and threw the cigarette under her feet. What is this, huh? You have cleaned nothing. I can see remnants of everything, you know. I can't do it. That's why I asked Mike to send you. Why the hell did he send me someone so useless? She was furious. She kept gritting her teeth as if that was the way to calm herself down. Then she screamed all of a sudden, picked up a broom from the floor and threw it at me. I got hit on my shoulder. It was better than getting wounded in my head. Before I could tell her that I accidentally entered the apartment, I saw her calling someone. It was probably Mike. I'm 6'3" tall. I go to the gym every day, and I have learned Taekwondo for a few years. I knew I was in good shape and I could probably handle a few punches and give a good fight if something bad happened. But I also knew that fighting in a studio or arena is way different from fighting in real life. There were no rules, and knowing this woman, I was scared that she might know some people who could mess me up. I had enough evidence that something shady was going on there, so there was no reason to risk everything. I ran as fast as I could and took the staircase to get out of the building. The woman was screaming behind me. I knew she was chasing me, so I just sat in my car in the parking lot for some time. After a few hours passed, I called my friend and told him everything. He came to fetch me, and I told him to accompany me to the apartment. The lift stopped on the second floor. When the door opened, it was the woman on the other end. I signaled my friend that this was the lady I was running from. She looked visibly flushed and sweaty, probably because of the running. Then she saw me. I had removed the handkerchief from my mouth and head. She stared at me and then demanded that I get out of the lift. I didn't want to. I ignored her and she said, "What? Are you scared of Mike's beating? I won't call him, but you better clean the apartment well. If you don't, you know what I'm capable of." Then she offered a nice smile to my friend and said that I was her cleaner. The lift opened and my friend and I started walking towards my door. The woman shouted from behind, "Where the hell are you going?" As soon as I turned back, she landed a punch on my mouth. "What did I say? You better do it while I'm still playing nice, you imbecile. I will make your life hell otherwise. Get in and do it, now." My mouth was bleeding. My friend rushed to help me. She warned him, "Hey, get out of here. It's not your business. You don't interfere if you want to suffer too." At this point, I had enough. I took a deep breath and said, "I don't work for you, lady, and I don't know any Mike. I came in because your door was open and I saw you fighting someone seconds ago." Her face grew red. She knew she had screwed up. She didn't even ask once who I was, and she just kept punching people left and right. "Wait, you? I'm going to call security. Why the hell are you here, and how could you enter without permission?" she yelled. I nodded at my friend. He took a cell phone out and called the security guards. Then he made a call to 911. The lady looked anxious and ran back to her apartment. She closed the door with a loud thud. In a few moments, the police arrived. They kept ringing the doorbell until the woman had to eventually open the door. They investigated her house for some time and kept asking her questions. Then they asked me a few questions when she yelled, "That man entered my house without permission. What right do you have?" I sighed and replied, "Surely I shouldn't have done that, but since this is my family's building, I have every right to be worried and investigate if I see something shady happening." Her eyes grew big with questions. I simply said, "Yeah, I'm the owner. I'm going to throw you out for obvious reasons. You've broken several rules and you have physically abused multiple people, including me. Don't think you're getting away with it." Just then, a cop came out with a bag of white powder in his hand. Suddenly, everything made sense. The man gave her money after she hit him, and then followed her to her apartment. The other woman looked lifeless and desperate for something even when she was bleeding. They were some serious addicts, and she was taking advantage of them. I looked at her and said, "Looks like you're not just getting evicted. You're also going to prison for a long time." That single moment drove her completely crazy. She kept blaming Mike for everything. Then she blamed me. The security guards and the police officers escorted her out of the building. Then the police pushed her inside the car and took her to the police station. It was wild. They informed me that she had to serve 15 years in jail. I shifted to another apartment shortly after that. For reference, I'm 17 and I'm in school full time, 5 days a week. I work 12 to 8 on the weekends and haven't had a day off other than for COVID leave since August. Of course, my 7-day week schedule isn't ideal, but I really appreciate the income and I've grown to like my job. Last summer, I really struggled to find myself a job. I was 16, and after dropping in and emailing 40 different employers and revising my CV about 1,000,000 times, I lost all hope. My parents decided that I was old enough to support myself and cut me off financially and stopped giving me bus money or lifts. I live in the countryside, about 20 kilometers away from all my friends, so I spent the summer completely alone, which was really difficult for me. All of my employee friends had gotten their jobs through their parents or friends of their parents. But my parents still made no effort to put in any personal word on my behalf to any employers they were on friendly terms with. Anyways, August rolled around and I finally got a job at McDonald's about a half-hour drive from me after 4 months in isolation. My parents immediately turned their noses up at the mention of McDonald's, but I wasn't in any position to be picky, and I'm still very grateful for the job. They have always put massive pressure on me to do well in school, and so, to please them, I've been overexerting myself for months and have a long streak of A's and B's. Unfortunately, I miss a day or two of school on average a month because of my period. For years, I've spent about a month paralyzed with cramps and nausea, which are 1,000,000 times worse than what any other girl I've talked to about this has ever experienced. I'm convinced that I have endometriosis and have brought the subject up with my parents again and again over the years and have begged them for a hospital appointment. 4 years later, and I still haven't seen anybody about my period pains, and I still continue to miss school over it. Despite this, my parents are constantly on my back about the days that I've missed at school, and yet neglect to get me any sort of help or treatment for what I'm going through. About 2 months ago, I missed a week of school because I was sure I had COVID when in actuality, I just had a bad dose of tonsillitis. My parents were furious when I tested negative for COVID and nagged and argued with me about it for about another month until I actually did test positive and ended up missing another full week of school. I have since caught up on all of the work I missed, and I haven't broken my streak of A's and B's. Today and yesterday, I stayed home from school because I've had another bout of tonsillitis, which went untreated the last time and this time as well. Apparently, this was the breaking point for my dad, and he called me down from my room and told me if I didn't either quit my job or drop down to 1 day a week, he was going to go into my manager's office and withdraw his parental consent himself. He blamed my illness on work and told me that it was unacceptable that I was missing school and told me that I needed to take a day off to dedicate wholly to studying. I tried to reason with him and showed him my report cards and recent test results and told him my grades were perfect and that I couldn't be blamed for catching COVID or tonsillitis. He shut me down and told me that my grades didn't matter because the fact remained that I was still missing school. I'm unsure what to do or how to change my dad's mind. I know a 7-day week is extreme for someone my age, but I have no other option. In order to see my friends and do nice things in the city outside of school, I need funds. In order to have funds, I need a job. My parents want me to have both a school life and a social life, but won't give me a single cent out of their pocket to get me out of the countryside jail cell. Pocket money is out of the question. I've tried to negotiate my way into making some kind of deal with them by doing good in school and doing any chores that my parents asked of me, but their argument is that I shouldn't be rewarded for doing the bare minimum of what is expected of me. Now that I have my own job, I'm financially independent and can no longer be guilt-tripped by them about money or by my laziness. I'm currently saving for a month-long holiday during the summer, and I already have deposits laid down and a plane ticket bought. Still, I need to earn a little extra money to pay the entire thing off. It's my reward to myself for the effort I've put in at school and for all the hours I've worked. I really want to do something nice for myself before I hunker down and inevitably quit my job for my final year at school the next year. For me, my job allows me to actually do nice things for myself and to see my friends. quitting it or slicing my income in half is not an option. Without it, my parents have made it very clear that they would not support me or give me any kind of pocket money to get to the bus to see my friends or to treat myself. I've proved to my parents time and time again that I can excel in school, take care of my physical and mental health, see my friends, and simultaneously work, but they're still not satisfied. I'm very frustrated by this whole situation, as I'm an only child who is fortunate to have two working parents who are married happily. Still, it often bothers me that I have friends with 5 siblings and a single mother who have better financial support than me. Of course, I know people's financial situations are not nearly as straightforward as that, and I don't mean to sound spoiled, but it is frustrating for me, and I wish my life could be different. What can I do? Am I being an asshole by not obeying them? Is it fair? Any advice would be appreciated so much. Side note, just to clarify, yes, my parents buy me food and let me live under their roof and pay for my schooling, just in case that wasn't clear. But it doesn't go much further than paying for my basic needs. Clothes, underwear, sanitary products, etc. are all bought by me. Good for you! It was 100% illegal for him to stop providing toiletries for you, and you're under no obligation to take care of him when he's old. However, please look into your state's parental care laws. Some require you to take care of them, and I do not want you to get trapped in that.